Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone. My name is Kathy. We had reported to you the filing of a lawsuit in Latah County, proceeding before Judge Megan E. Marshall. It is styled as EWU Media LLC, a Nevada limited liability company, as the petitioner versus City of Moscow, Idaho, and Moscow Police Department. They are the two respondents. This concerns documents that EWU had requested from the City of Moscow dealing with the Moscow Police Department's investigation into the crimes at 1122 King Road. Earlier this month, 4 of the plaintiffs that were involved in Laramie et al. Versus City of Moscow in a matter filed last year, also before Judge Megan E. Marshall, and who obtained a permanent restraining order / injunction restraining the City of Moscow Police Department from releasing certain photographs, images, video from the crime scene, entered into this EWU lawsuit as interveners 3 members of the Chapin family, Ethan's mother, father, and sister, but not brother, joined Karen Laramie, who initiated this matter. And therefore, they were the prevailing parties last year. They joined this action as interveners. And they were granted the opportunity by Judge Marshall to intervene on this case, finding that they had a sufficient right to be heard, even though they're not petitioners or respondents here. We would like to, in this episode of the Indie Zone and in 2 further episodes that will follow, go through the petition for disclosure of public records that EWU filed and discuss it to gain some further understanding as to what this litigation is all about. Page 1 begins. Comes now petitioner EWU Media LLC, and then in parentheses EWU, telling you that this is how they're going to be referring to themselves thereafter. By and through its undersigned counsel, and files this verified petition for disclosure of public records, in parentheses petition, to compel the City of Moscow and the Moscow Police Department, collectively the city, to provide access to certain records pursuant to Idaho Public Records Act, IC Section 74101 et seq, meaning all of the relevant aspects of that statute included here with this citation, ladies and gentlemen. And hereinafter, in parentheses, the statute will be described as the IPRA. In support of its petition, EWU hereby petitions, alleges, and avers against the city as follows. And before I go on, the first 2 pages of this petition is located on our sister YouTube channel. There is a link in the description to this podcast episode, and you can read these first 2 pages along with us. Section 1, here's where EWU will give its side of the story regarding what is relevant here. Paragraph 1. This action arises from the city's denial of EWU's public records request related to the investigation of Brian Kohberger. Paragraph 2, page 2. The city denied disclosure of responsive records or redacted those records on the grounds that, paragraph 2A, certain materials were exempt from disclosure under Pennsylvania, not Idaho law. Paragraph 2B, certain materials were exempt under federal law. And then in parentheses, but no citation to federal law was provided, end of parentheses. Paragraph 2C, the city was not the custodian of records created by other agencies, including the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Idaho State Police, and the Pennsylvania State Police, amongst others. And finally, Section 2D, an October 2025 non-dissemination order justified over redaction of certain materials. So let's just stop right here, because if you've been following the Idaho versus Kohberger case, you know that the investigation into Mr. Kohberger was the result of multiple agencies, even though the crimes occurred within Moscow, which was the jurisdiction of the Moscow Police Department. 1122 King Road, when that house stood before it was knocked down, was within the city of Moscow's limits. Therefore, Moscow Police Department had jurisdiction over this investigation. They elected to invite in other agencies to assist them, including the Pennsylvania State Police, to coordinate the arrest of Mr. Kohberger, who was in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, at the time of his arrest back on December 30th, 2022, one day after the affidavit of probable cause asking for Mr. Kohberger's arrest warrant was signed, as it was, by Detective Brett Payne of the Moscow Police Department, first judge in the case after Mr. Kohberger returned voluntarily from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, as he did the beginning of January 2023. Proceedings were held before Judge Marshall. Then finally, we look at paragraph 3. These denials or redactions are contrary to the IPRA, Idaho Code 74101 et sec. One additional point. The October 2025 non-dissemination order that's referenced here at paragraph 2B is the order that was signed by Judge Marshall in Laramie et al. Versus City of Moscow. Paragraph 4, this is page 2. EWU Media, LLC is a Nevada limited liability company. Paragraph 5, the City of Moscow and the Moscow Police Department are public agencies under Idaho Code Section 74-101-11. Then, venue and jurisdiction. Paragraph 6, this court has jurisdiction under Idaho Code Section 74-115, subsection 1-7. Venue is proper in Latah County because the requested records are located in Latah County. Venue and jurisdiction. This is where the plaintiff is saying this case is properly filed and prosecuted in Latah County. Not any other county in Idaho, not Canyon County, not Ada County, not Payette County, but right here in Latah County. Why? Because the records that this petitioner is seeking are located in Latah County, specifically within the Moscow Police Department and the City of Moscow. So we see here that the petitioner had filed, as many people have, public records request citing to the state law. And they're saying here that there were denials or improper redactions, and the reasons are in paragraph 2 to A, B, C, and D, 4 separate reasons. And so now they're forced to file this lawsuit. We're going to continue next time to go through the next part of this document. Until next time, this is Kathy. Thank you as always for joining us here today.